Hello everyone, my name is Miner and welcome back to Minecraft for Beginners. In today's episode we will be talking about enchanting tools and armor. There are two ways to enchant your tools and armor. The first way is by the enchanting table, like I mentioned in the last episode, and we'll discuss a little bit about that again, so you can get a refresher course. And the other way is by enchanted books. There are quite a number of different books, each with their own ability. So first, we will talk about the enchanting table, how to use it, and how to enchant things again. Then I will show you how to enchant using the enchanted books. So, let's get right into it. First up is the enchanting table. The enchanting table is made using the following items: 4 blocks of obsidian, 2 diamonds, and a book. I know these are rather expensive items to get and are hard to find and mine, but it is possible. It just takes a little bit of time and patience. Once you have that, you can right click on it and you'll see that lapis is needed. So we grab some lapis and our item to enchant. And when we place the item in there, we can see how many levels we need to enchant the item. Depending on the level of enchant you want, you can get Sharpness 1, Bane of Arthropods, or Smite 4. The enchants will change for each weapon you put in and after each enchant. You can even have multiple tools and weapons and have varying enchants on them. Now if you put the lapis in there and click on one of those, the best one is usually level 3, and you need to have 30 levels before you can enchant for this high level. The level over here, where my mouse is, that describes how many levels will be taken away when you use this enchant. Now I'm in creative mode, so I don't have any levels, and it will just do it for me anyway. But you want to make sure you have 30 or above, otherwise you will not be able to get this high level. And once you use up 3 of them, it will drop it down to 27, so you'll only be able to get these 2 instead of the 30. So when we do it, you will be able to get this Smite 4, and there's 3 dots after it, and that means it could have more than one enchant when you do that. So when you click on it, you get the enchanter achievement or advancement. When you hover over it, you get Smite 4, and I got an extra enchant of Sweeping Edge 3. So if I get rid of this now, grab a new sword, and go back into it, it has changed. There's now Smite 2, Knockback 1, and Sharpness 3. So if I put that in there and do it again, I got Sharpness 3 and Knockback 2. So every time you do it, it will change. Now this comes in handy when you want to enchant your items. But the enchant is pretty much random in how it chooses things. So you may have to go through a number of tools before you get the right one. And for that, you take the item to a grindstone and de-enchant it or disenchant it. And then you can put it back in and get better things. There's looting, unbreaking 1. But you can get better things. And that's where the books come in. Now, it is best to try to get the best enchant you can from actually using the enchanting table, because over time, the more you put things onto a tool for enchants, the more expensive it will be to use an anvil. So you want to be aware of that. The enchanted books here I have on the board are the ones I use and are probably the better of the enchants. And so those are the ones I'm going to teach you today. There are other enchants that you can do for weapons and armor, but these are just the ones that I use and prefer. But it's basically just personal preference, and it's just however you want to play with on your game. For the first one, we have the sword. Now I usually put mending, unbreaking 3, sharpness 5, and looting 3 on it. You can also have a smite, bane of arthropods, knockback 2, fire aspect, sweeping edge, all on a sword. And smite is good for undead zombies and things like that, but that is generally all it's good for. Bane of arthropods is only for things with multiple legs, like squid and spiders. Spiders really aren't that difficult to defeat, so it's really not that useful. Knockback 2 is okay, but it does knock the enemies away from you quite a good distance, and it's best just to have them go not to have it, because it will just knock them back too far, and it just takes a long time to defeat them. Fire aspect is good if you want to set them on fire, but the problem with that is, yes, it does kill them quicker, but it could also set you on fire because the enemy is now on fire. So it's just a personal preference. I prefer not to use it. Sweeping edge is good for hitting multiple mobs at the same time, though in the Nether, if you're around zombie pigmen or piglins, it is not very good because you may hit them and they may come after you and attack you. So just some things to be aware about. Going back to the sword, these are just the ones I use. It's just mending, unbreaking 3. Mending is when you kill a mob, you get experience from it. And mending, what that does is it will re-heal your tool or weapon and also your armor. So it's good to have, like a XP farm or something, so you can mend your tools and things. Unbreaking 3 maintains the durability of the weapon or tool or armor a little better. And most of the items I have here all have mending and unbreaking on them. So it does take a little while to mend your tools and things, but if you have a good XP farm, it goes pretty quickly. Sharpness 5 helps with slicing through different things, and it makes the attacks a bit more powerful. Looting 3 allows you to get the more items from enemies and things. Like if you have a skeleton and he's wearing armor, you may get the armor and the enchanted bow he's holding. So it's good to have that as well. You might also get more blaze rods and things. It increases the percentage a little bit. So you may get blaze rods more, or you can get from wither skeleton heads, but it doesn't really increase it that much. The shovel, I have efficiency 5 on it, so that way I can dig a little faster. Efficiency improves the speed of things, of like digging or chopping or digging or mining. So you have that on all 3 of these, and also on a hoe. The hoe is more useful now for getting hay bales, leaves, and other things like that. So it is actually a useful tool now, and it is best to have just, you don't really only need one, but you could have maybe like 2 for backup. But netherite may not be the best option for it, so you could get like a iron hoe or something and put these enchants on it. For the pickaxe, there is mending, unbreaking 3, and efficiency 5. Then there's also silk touch and fortune 3. You cannot have both on one pickaxe. You have to have 2 different pickaxes, because silk touch will maintain the block type that it is instead of breaking it down. Fortune 3 will produce more of like diamonds. If you mine diamonds, you will get more diamonds out of it. But if you have silk touch on it, you will never be able to mine those diamonds, because it will always take the block form in the diamond ore instead of actually breaking it down. I also, for my axe, I have mending, unbreaking 3, efficiency 5, and sharpness 5 to make it faster to chop down trees and things. And those are just the ones I use. You also have the other enchants down there, but it's your personal preference. I would always recommend mending and unbreaking 3, just so, and efficiency for your tools, and sharpness for your sword and your axe. Silk Touch and Fortune 3 are great for your pickaxe, but for the and Looting 3 is good for your sword. Other than that, you can choose to play with the other enchants if you want, but these are just my personal preference, and that's how I like to play the game with it. Moving on to the armor, this is all netherite armor. The elytra only has two enchants that it can do, is Mending and Unbreaking 3. Those are the only two it has. You can also put Curse of Vanishing and Curse of Binding on it, but those are not very useful, so it's just best to have just these two. Going to the helmet, we have Mending on all of our armor, and Unbreaking on all of our armor. So those are standard for like the tools. But for the helmet, we also have protection, and we have protection for all of them. And there's also multiple kinds of different protection. So you have regular protection, protection 4, which is the highest. And then down here, we also have fire protection 4, blast protection 4, and projectile protection 4. You also have Thorns 3 and Frostwalker. Frostwalker helps you walk across water by freezing the surface of the water. It will not do it if you're in the water, but it also doesn't allow you to get into the water very easily. So I prefer not to play with it. I prefer to go into the water and just go around that way. With Thorns 3, you can do damage back to your opponent or the enemy mob that's attacking you. I don't prefer to use it because it may kill like a cat or something, or my dog, and I don't want that to happen. So projectile protection 4 protects against uh, arrows and things of that sort. Blast protection protects against like explosions of creepers and TNT. Fire protection helps you against like fire so you don't burn. And it's also very helpful in the nether if you fall into a lava lake. Going back to the armor, we have for the helmet Aqua Affinity, and what that does, it allows you to mine quicker underwater, which is very, very helpful. So if you're building something underwater, you can mine gravel and things without having to worry about it. Having Respiration 3 actually helps a lot because it allows you to stay underwater a lot longer and makes your bubbles that appear above your meat haunches, it makes them last longer and does not make them go away as quickly. So these two are very good to have on your helmet. You can also use a turtle shell helmet to get the respiration, but the respiration 3 I think is a little better than the turtle helmet. And with the netherite armor helmet, it protects your head a little better. With these, the leggings and the chest plate, if you have the elytra, you really don't use the chest plate that often, but they really don't have much enchants. You could put thorns on them to damage the enemies, but it's not really that necessary. But mostly it's just Mending, Unbreaking 3, and Protection 4, or whatever protection you want. You could have Blast Protection on here, and Projectile Protection there, or just leave it as Protection. On the shoes, you have Mending, Unbreaking, and Protection, but you also have Feather Falling, which allows you to cushion your fall a little bit better, so you don't take a lot of damage. Depth Strider 3 allows you to swim and walk a lot faster in the water. And for Soul Speed 3, Soul Speed is good for running on soul sand or soul soil. So if you have that in your world and you want to make like a pathway, you can add that to it and you'll get really fast speeds. If you add it with the swiftness buff from a beacon, you can go even faster. But the only way to get Soul Speed 3 is by finding it in a bastion or trading with the piglins. And it is kind of a rare thing to get. So, moving on to the extra weapons you can have. You have a trident, bow, and crossbow. With the trident, you can have mending and unbreaking. The same for the other two. You also have loyalty. Loyalty allows the trident to come back to you, and it will, no matter how far, with loyalty 3, no matter how far it goes, it will always come back to you. Impaling 5 allows it to deal more damage. Riptide, if you're in water or a rainstorm, you can fly through the air and use that with your elytra, and you can just use the Riptide to basically fly through the air even without the elytra. But you can use Riptide to fly out of water and then float around with the elytra. Channeling allows you to channel lightning and thunderstorms, and also make charged creepers or change a villager to a witch. Now you can't have Riptide and channeling at the same time. The game does not allow that. So you have to choose between Riptide or channeling for your trident, or get another trident and have one on each. The bow has mending and unbreaking, like I said before. Punch 2 gives it more of, it's kind of like knockback for a bow, and in this case it is kind of helpful because you can keep them at a distance while you do your long range attacks. Flame adds fire to your arrow, and you can set enemies and things on fire. And with the punch 2, it keeps them at a distance so you never catch yourself on fire. Power 5 gives you more power so you can kill the enemies in one shot. And Infinity allows for repeated amounts of arrows fired without having to use up any arrows. So you can have one arrow and just keep firing arrows repeatedly. Now, you can't have Infinity and Mending on the same bow. You have to choose one or the other. There is a personal preference here. I did have a Infinity bow instead of a mending bow. Then I changed to a mending bow, and I kind of prefer the Infinity bow over the mending. So it's just a personal preference. Crossbow, you have mending and unbreaking 3. Quick charge allows it to charge up quicker, so you can fire more arrows. Piercing allows it to get through the enemy, so you can hit multiple enemies at the same time. With the tools, you also have multi-shot for your crossbow, and that allows for multiple arrows to be fired at once. You also have a fishing rod, which you can put Luck of the Sea 3 and Lure 3 on. What Luck of the Sea 3 does is it allows you to get more items and much rarer, because you can actually get enchanted books from fishing. Lure allows more fish and the bubbles to appear more often. Then you have mending and unbreaking. So, to enchant with books, you want to take your item. We'll just take the elytra here, and we'll take our books, and we'll go to the anvil. Now, when enchanting with books, the number of enchants you can put on something starts to increase. So if you try to put more enchants on it, but with the elytra, we can only do 2. But if you try to repair it using another elytra and everything, that starts to get more costly, and after a certain amount of time, it will actually cause your item to not want to be repaired anymore or enchanted anymore using the anvil, which means you will be stuck with that item, and it's always best to put mending and unbreaking on the item first, so that way you never have to use another item, or for the elytra, never have to use a phantom membrane again to repair it and increase the durability. and increase the number of times you can repair it. Because every time you repair it, it will cost more and more levels, which is a problem after a certain amount of time. But when you're doing the books, sometimes it's best to take the books and combine them first before you put them on your, like for these, before you put them on your items. So we can take the mending and the unbreaking, combine them, protection. Now sometimes you can switch them around and get the enchantment cost to go down. So it went from 6 to 5. We do that. And yeah, the feather falling, we can maybe move that around. That costs more. So you just have to kind of play with it and see how much it's going to cost. Some are very expensive, like the Soul Speed 3, so we're going to save that one for last. See if that, yeah, it's getting up there. So we're running out of, ooh, yeah, that one is expensive. No matter which way you put it, it is expensive. So you got 27, it was 34 the other way. So we put that on there. Then we put it on our boots, and it will be quite a lot. So you probably don't want to do all of them at the same time, but it does save time. So you might want to put like mending and unbreaking and protection on it first, and then use another book for depth strider and feather falling, and then put those on there. And you really don't have to put soul speed on there, but it helps when you have a pathway that's covered in soul soil or soul sand, and you can really speed around. But that is pretty much all you have to do, and just beware of how many times you repair your items, and also put the books and enchant them, because it will drive up the cost, and if it's too much, it will say that it is too expensive to repair or enchant. So just be aware of that. But that is pretty much it for this episode. So if you liked what you saw and want to know more about how to enchant things, let me know in the comments below. Also leave me a like, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. See ya!